All right, it is 6 o'clock. It's about time to go ahead and get started. I am, of course, Fantastic Facade. I am joined by Geocentric Skeptic. Are you with me?
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm chilling, man. Ready to get started.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. It's definitely going to be interesting. Uh, so, for the viewers that are watching, a few things. If you see this, say hi in chat so we know you're here. Um, Feel free to ask questions, give commentary, give your
Call in
opinion, or if you'd like, you can call in. So I'm going to have the number of the
202.
screen here in just a moment with some of our contested points. But just a little background before we get into this, and this is a long one. It could go forever, but we are going to be time sensitive here and respect each other's times and opinions. Although I think even though that the two of us have known each other a long time, we may have different viewpoints on certain things here. So it might make for a better debate in general. Anything you want to add to that, Gio?
Nah, I'm good. Just want to say call in 202-888-5350. We want to
Yep,
hear
and
your
I'm going to have
voice.
that number up on the screen here in just a minute with some of our contested points. If there are points that we're missing or that you don't see that you want to add, that's a perfect reason to call in. That is exactly what we want you to do. So if you can, give us a call there or join our Discord server. You can call in there and get in the wait list. It's a little clearer and less laggy through Discord, but we do have the number set up in case you don't have a Twitch or Discord. Wanted to make it easy for anyone to get in. So without any further ado, I'm going to switch over to our contested points page, and a little caveat with it. I'm aware not everything goes with everything else, but there's so many topics we could take on and tackle that I included some of them together. I separated some of them because I think they deserve their own whole subtopic, but we'll go from there. Today's topic, obviously, being can a modern society prosper without the use of a government? So, anarchism versus any form of government.
Yeah. I
And
say more specifically
specifically,
anarcho-capitalism.
exactly. So that's where I was going to go with that. A lot of people that may view this or that have libertarian leaning beliefs politically may find themselves agreeing with some of the concepts of anarcho capitalism. Maybe not, but more times than not, you'll see kind of libertarians leaning that way. Whereas most of the time, people that identify as like Republican or independent or Democratic typically don't go the way of anarchism.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Most people, the idea of having no government at all it kind of scares them, right? I mean, even your most right leaning, your most limited government people are usually going to say, "Hey, we need the government for a few things like the military, judicial system, etc."
Right.
Uh,
And
yeah, but
so,
your average breed is going to say, "Get rid of it altogether."
all right, let's jump into it then. Where do you stand?
Well, so I come from the camp of anarcho capitalism, and that is a political philosophy, but it is derived from a ethical philosophy called libertarianism. So a
Okay.
lot of people, but for most people, when you say the word libertarian, they think of politics, whether the political party of the same name, or maybe even an individual such as Ron Paul, Milton Friedman, etc. Either way, when most people think of the principle of libertarianism, it's in the context of politics. And so I want to get away from that.
Okay.
The libertarianism is an ethical philosophy. So it describes how people ought to behave, not just in politics, but as individuals as well. And I know you're familiar with the non-aggression principle.
I
I,
am.
um, yeah, I googled the definition of the term. I just wanted to get it right, just because the audience is not familiar with it. The the I got this from Ludwig von Mises wiki page. And the definition they gave is initiating or threatening any forceful interference with either an individual or their property is inherently wrong. I've seen it worded different ways, but the gist of it is that violating someone's property rights is immoral. That's
So
that's the
is
gist of it.
that what you're gonna say is the foundation of where you stand in a grand sense of how this thing we call a country should work?
Yes, and there's some few challenges with that because th- there are two basic underlying assumptions made with libertarianism, and when you start to question those assumptions, it can start to fall apart. So the two basic assumptions is that I own my property. This
Hmm.
includes myself, my body, my mind, and anything that you could identify as me, right?
Okay. Yep.
As well as all the property that is not me, like such as my money, my home, etc.
Okay.
Number two would be I have exclusive authority over the fruit of my labor. For instance, I work for my car. Nobody can claim any right to it without my consent. If anyone does claim a right to it or use it for my consent, they're violating my property rights or committing an act of aggression towards me. And if you accept both of those assumptions, then libertarianism is about as solid as an act that you could get. Both of
S-
those assumptions seem intuitive to most people, but once you start digging in to them, that's when libertarianism starts to fall apart. And I've seen these conversations get way off topic when examining these assumptions, which is one
Yeah.
reason one reason why I wanted to avoid them for now.
Yeah.
It,
So I won't jump straight into it with you on that then if you want to avoid it up front.
yeah,
But I think as we get
yeah,
a little into it, I'm definitely going to dive into property rights. Um,
okay,
and
that's fine.
um,
I
that's
wanted
that's
just to,
why I even included it in one of the things
you
because I
mind if I
knew
just
you were going to bring it up.
yeah, I just want to be just upfront with the weaknesses in it, and that's why I don't want people listening to this later and to be like, oh, well, this is this huge gleaming area in libertarianism. Like I'm aware of the errors. So I wanted to, the first problem is that there is no intrinsic reason to accept the first premise. I mean, like, why should I have control over my body, my property, not someone else? It sounds intuitive, but it's just an assumption that's unwarranted. And we don't grant these rights to creatures. So why humans? And
So are we
this
going to
is
just
where
jump into it right now on property rights?
we could,
Because
but I
it
just want
seems like you're
I
trying to clarify, and if you're going to go
I,
there,
I
I'm going to
no
go there with you. But
yeah,
I
we could
just
go
want to let
I
you know.
I just I just want to throw out the weaknesses to know that I am aware
Yeah,
of
I
these.
I don't think
That's
that's the biggest one in property rights. But go ahead.
really okay. Well, when I say like get off topic, so like usually like I've seen online and some of these libertarian groups, I've seen that libertarian Christians or Muslims, etc., who claim to follow some sort of camp of libertarianism. When they try to justify that first premise, they try to appeal to a god, and like we were discussing last week, that that doesn't necessarily follow. Like even if you could prove that the god does have an opinion on something like bodily autonomy, it doesn't make it an objective moral fact. And I don't want to rehash the conversation we had last week, so the audience can go back and listen to that. Two, like another gleaming error with it is that if you the way the God is presented, at least in the Abrahamic religions, it cares little about bodily autonomy or human rights. Uh, and so to appeal to that guy doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's the main reason I wanted to avoid that conversation, because it goes it goes somewhere that it ought not to.
I'm
And
fine with
also, I was
that.
trying to
And
clear up
I
property
don't think
rights.
I'll go down that road, but if we get a caller or whatnot, it's something to be
If
mindful
a
of.
caller decides to go there, I'll go there.
Sure.
But it gets problematic.
Okay. So other than those two fundamental beliefs, which you might call first rights or first ideas or etc., something along those lines, uh, anything else you want to add to your philosophy?
Sure. Well, the way I justify those two assumptions is what, so as you know, like I'm a humanist, and what I care about is the well-being of thinking creatures. And from what I can tell, and not acknowledging that an individual has the right to own yourself and your property is most conducive to well-being. And that's how I ground it.
Okay.
There's no intrinsic reason to care about it, but if you're around to hear this conversation, then you do care about your well-being at least.
Fair enough. So where do you want to start? Pick one.
Um, we could talk about uh military.
Okay. So I included military and police.
Hmm.
Obviously, those two are seen hand in hand a lot. Not necessarily in this scenario, but since they're both currently government funded,
Yeah.
let's go there together.
Okay.
Um, do you think? Well, actually, I'm going to back up before you even get there.
Okay.
Would you say, and this is going to be, you'll see why I'm doing what I'm doing. But do you think America, if America, the United States, were to adopt anarcho-capitalism and abandon the democratic republic which we currently use, that it would still be America?
Well, in one sense, yes. In another sense, no.
Okay.
So, in one sense, like, you could argue that America isn't its national borders. It's not a document. That it's the people that lives here, and you can
Mhm.
get all you can get all itsy feels and stuff about it like that. But
Sure.
in a more legal sense, and it is no longer America, because you've changed that government. United States of America is the government,
Right. So I want to
not
clarify
the individuals.
that there is no statehood nor federal district that is the United States anymore. In an anarcho-capitalist society, there are no
Yeah.
states; they don't exist. There is no
Yes.
collective of the United States of America. There are just people that exist in North America between Canada and Mexico.
Yeah. I'm roughly sure. I mean, and people. So people in anarcho-capitalist society, people are free to organize themselves and call themselves whatever they want. The main thing is that it's completely voluntary.
Right. I
So
believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you hold to this more dearly than I do, um, that as long as no matter what happens, it's between consenting adults, it's fine. Is that an accurate description of policies, ideas, forefront of anarcho-capitalism?
when you describe it that way, it's like, man, I can like feel a trap coming.
Yeah,
But
it's not a trap. I
but
swear. I'm gonna get
okay,
back
yeah,
to
yeah,
military, just in
yeah,
general.
definitely. But I'm not afraid. Roughly sure.
Okay,
We,
I swear it's
I,
not a trap. I'll let
yeah,
you know when there's a trap.
with enough imagination, you might be able to get me to say, "Oh no, you couldn't do that." But
No, no,
I'm going to say yes.
I don't have a trap set up there. I have one
Okay,
set up with property rights and one
gotcha.
more on the board, but it's not military and police. So, do you think that the standing military should just be disbanded?
No.
I mean, currently we have a standing military in the United
Okay.
States because we're a democratic republic. It is funded by the American government. In anarcho-capitalism, there is no government. Therefore, the standing military we currently have would be abolished.
So to be clear, I am not advocating abolishing the United States or its military or any of its allies. So I'm saying the most moral position is for it to be voluntary. I just want to clear that up. That way I don't.
No, yeah, I don't want you to come across as un-American or anti-America or anything like that.
Definitely.
Specifically in the realm of a hypothetical anarcho-capitalism system integrated into what we currently call America, would the standing military be disbanded?
Most likely, yes, but it doesn't have to. Because you can still have a military and police, longest it's funded voluntarily.
Okay. What about the weapons that are in current possession of the government?
You're asking like should they be like destroyed?
What do we do with them?
Oh, well,
in a transition from the current system to an anarcho-capitalist system, what happens to weapons?
So realistically, the military doesn't have to go away, and if people value what the military offers, and you don't have to force them with, garnished wages and prison to pay for them. If they really value what the military offers, then they'll pay for it voluntarily. And as an active serving member of the armed forces, I think that what we do is valuable. And so I definitely
do not disagree.
Yeah,
I do have also a counterpoint to that specifically before you go on to your next thing.
Yeah.
And that is income.
Mm-hmm.
So what about people who live in the slums? What about people who live on the streets? They definitely can't afford to pay the military. They can't even afford to feed themselves. So does the military just not protect them?
No. So what would happen? Just think about the ways wars work, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they're fundamentally against a non-aggression pact that the anarcho-capitalist hold so dear, but that's beyond the point.
What wars or military?
Military and
no, it's not. So well,
pick one.
No, because the problem is the non-aggression principle means no aggression. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. We're not pacifist.
Mm-hmm. So I'm aware, but I can't imagine a scenario in which you flew bombers over a country in which they wouldn't see that as an aggressive act. And I couldn't reason how you could put tanks or battleships or aircraft carriers or Lockheeds or pick a bomb into any scenario in which it doesn't seem aggressive.
So realistically, if America was transitioning to an anarcho-capitalist society, the military, though it might still be there, it would definitely downsize. All of this wasteful spending, like I think they spent like $100 billion on an F-35 program that's failed. All when they're, we spend more on defense than like the next 10 countries combined, and that's we're able to do that because we don't really have a choice. But
my question still stands.
If we go anarcho-capitalist, it would downsize to work the most efficiently. So that means you wouldn't have all of these foreign invasions. You wouldn't be having large amounts of ammo and wasteful training and all that type of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, how would you decide when it's time to go to war?
Or when the people would decide ultimately, I guess.
Which ones?
Their customers would, but it's just defensive, right? So you're not gonna waste your time on invading people, because 'cause remember, like it's a business. Rewards are
Mhm.
expensive. Rewards are
I agree.
expensive. And
Uh,
if you're talking about that your funding now isn't guaranteed. For instance, if you start doing something stupid with the war, like for instance, think about Vietnam,
mhm.
right? People supported it when they first went over there, and then public opinion shifted. If it was running in like in an ANCAP society, instead of people just protesting, they stopped funding it. And what would happen then? The war would just have to stop
Yeah, I
because
don't think
they've
we'd
run
be
out of
there
money.
if it was an ANCAP society, but that's me.
Let's say if it turned ANCAP, halfway through, the option could be immediately to stop funding it. So you're not getting one more dime of my money because I don't support what you're doing.
Right, and then you
If
just abandon soldiers in Vietnam.
you don't want to abandon them, you can just take what's left and you can pull out. But you just
No, that's
it's not
funding.
like but yeah, but it's not like once you stop. It's not like once you stop paying, the funds immediately just run out, right? I mean, you can still leave, or you
Well,
can just make the demand.
what
Hey,
are we
if you don't
setting up a
leave,
reserve fund that we can use, or what's going on there?
oh well, of course. I mean, it's a business, so
Who's okay?
so
Who's
you
going to control it?
can control the business.
Well, the fund, if you call it a business, sure.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
Oh, so it
'Cause, I
would be
mean,
a private business that was in charge of this funding.
no, the military will be private.
Right, but I'm
Military
talking
is a
about
private
a
business.
fund for the military that was given by the people of an area, since we're not in America anymore. Uh, this funding, how would it get to the military? How do we
I'm not s-
how do how do
so
we take funds from the people that are voluntarily giving up their money? How do we
mhm.
take that money and apply it to things like war and a military aggressive act like Vietnam, like you mentioned?
so
How do you go from
I mean,
private people
it's just
giving
I
money
mean,
to
it would be like
war?
it'd be like a subscription service, just like anything else. When you pay your water bill, your rent. I mean, so the money would like if let's say Lockheed Martin was the national security force,
Mhm.
right? You'd be paying your bills to them, and they'd have their own bank accounts, and they distribute it accordingly. I
So
mean,
we have,
that's the
let's say hypothetically we'll use ABC instead of a real company like Lockheed Martin just for the sake of this argument. Let's
mhm.
say ABC Defense is who your people decide they want to invest in to protect the country.
Yep.
And then they hire private individuals as essentially the military. And they
Yeah, they're the
also
contractors.
make or build or buy military weapons such as tanks and boats and aircraft and stuff that they can go to Vietnam. That what we're saying so far?
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
in the ANCAPs, yeah, I'm sure. Well, that may or may not happen in an ANCAP society. Like I said, a business isn't going to do something that's going to cost them a bunch of money, or if they do, they're just going to not last very long.
Right.
A
So
scenario like Vietnam,
my question is how do you fund it?
well, it's funded voluntarily. Are you asking how does
Yeah,
the money
well,
get from my bank account to A, B, and C bank account?
sure. Let's start there.
Well, I mean, it's wired through a bank. Like you don't need the
Okay.
government for that. Right,
That's
right
fine.
now.
I
Yeah.
agree completely. Now, what about your next door neighbor who doesn't like ABC Company? They
He
do
doesn't
not pay
have
them a dime.
he
Should
doesn't have to
ABC
fund it.
Company protect them?
No, they're under no obligation to protect them.
I agree. But let's say they're
just
in the
think about how things
proximity of
work.
you. How do they
But
discriminate?
it can't.
Agreed. So, with that in mind, since the government, well, countries have things like nuclear warheads, how do we stop them from blowing us
There's
all up?
in a in a private business would never be able to support the cost of maintaining a nuclear weapon.
You're
Like
wrong.
we're talking about in the trillions here.
You're wrong.
It's impractical. And you think I'm wrong? I mean, let's look how much costs to maintain a nuclear weapon.
Well, irrelevant. Once you have one, you could just threaten to use it all the time. And then you can use it to coerce people to pay you for either protection or for literally strong-arming them into not dropping a nuclear warhead on them. So once it's acquired, that's it. Whether it was people like Lockheed Martin who build Tomahawk warheads, or whether it's...
Okay, so no. Do you know, like, all the parts that are necessary to build a nuclear weapon? It's
now,
not
if
like
I did, I'd be a nuclear physicist, but...
Well, yeah, so it's not like A, B, and C could just make this on their own.
I agree, but you are aware that companies make them.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, but the parts that they get from other companies, like there are millions of moving parts in play that have to voluntarily work together. They're not going to help A, B, and C, D build a nuke so it can be used to threaten them.
Even if you're right, nukes already exist.
Would you help somebody build a weapon so they could kill you with it?
Well, no, but I also would give them money to not nuke me.
Yeah, but how would they get the nuke in the first place?
They're already nuclear warheads. They already exist.
So you're saying, like, if America were to turn ANCAP, there's already nukes available?
Yes, we currently have nuclear weapons.
Okay, so where do you think they'd store those?
That's a great question, because currently that's handled by the government.
Yeah, I mean,
so where would in an ANCAP society you store nuclear weapons? Now somebody has to do it.
You would need millions of, like I said, again, you would need millions of voluntary parts working together.
No. That's to build one. We already have working nuclear warheads that we could drop on anyone.
No,
they exist right now.
Even to store them. Let's think about the nuclear submarine.
It's irrelevant. They exist. Yeah, I don't care how much it costs to store them. What I care about is, in the society we currently live in, nuclear warheads exist. They are currently stored and maintained by the U.S. government. If the U.S. government were disbanded and moved or transitioned to an ANCAP society, who gets control of the nuclear weapons and how do you store them?
There'll be no practical way that I could think of that a private organization could afford the cost and have means on their own to be able to keep them maintenance, store them, and then even use them. Like I was talking, that's what I was going to bring up, like the submarine part. Like you know about the nuclear triad, right? Land, air,
land, air, and sea.
Yeah, the submarine base. Like it's not like once you put it in the submarine, hey, you're good to go, when they can just stay there forever. Like those centrifuges got to be replaced every few years. That this is going to cost in the billions.
Okay.
And think about this: you're in an ANCAP society. You're threatening people with nukes. Good luck having other organizations voluntarily work with you. Where are you going to keep your money?
Or how just about threaten water, those people too,
etc.
Just threaten those people too. If you have the nukes, no one's going to argue.
So who's going to do it? Is it one guy?
Let's just say it's ABC Company. ABC Company, once the government transitions to ANCAP, has lots of money. The government's possessions, which include nuclear warhead, are distributed through the current existing American individuals who have paid taxes. Through some method, you have distributed either the weapons or you have sold them in some way to either private citizens or individuals or businesses. Because nothing belongs to the government anymore, including nuclear weapons.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how are you going to get people to work with you in this? Like how big is this organization? Because the people who work for A, B, C, and D, they live in the same country that you're threatening to bomb, along with their families. Their livelihood is going to be at stake too. Like this is you have to voluntarily get hundreds of thousands of people to work with you on a suicide mission to threaten themselves.
Not necessarily. Let's just say we'll use major cities for fun. Here we go. ABC Company knows that a government organization that houses nuclear weapons exists in Miami, Florida. Okay? They acquire the land to that area once the government is disbanded. They now own the property, which includes everything on it, which includes those nuclear weapons. Now, ABC Company is in charge of nuclear weapons. Just like that. That's all it took.
Yep. Okay.
Now, so ABC Company threatens people in San Francisco that if they do not comply or do not provide them with resources, they will nuke them with the weapons in their possession.
You realize a nuke is not a precise weapon. It's not
it
like
would take out most of the city. We don't care.
I mean, the radiation would spread everywhere, the entire country. Again, this is another suicide mission.
No, I can prove to you that that's not true. Japan, World War II, we dropped 2 nuclear warheads on it. Not everyone in Japan died.
No, I mean, of course not. But the weapons that were dropped on in Japan were much weaker than they were now.
Oh, great. I wait 5 years until the nuclear life has gone down, or I bring a brilliant person in to adjust it, because we could. Problem solved. Now what? You have a company, ABC in Miami, Florida, threatening to drop maybe not even a nuclear warhead, but a massive atomic bomb on a country.
In Florida, they're threatening San Francisco.
The whole state of Florida has gone to ANCAP, right? They all identify still as Floridians because they're Florida. Yeah. They decide that as Florida, who currently possesses nuclear weapons, that if California, specifically the area of San Francisco, does not comply with giving them either materials or providing them with services or goods, that they are going to utilize their bombs to blow them up.
So besides the fact that you'd have to get a lot of people to work with you to help keep you delivering essential goods like food, water, etc., despite the fact that you're threatening them, and I know you
have an agricultural system in Florida to provide you food and water.
Okay, sure. Okay, sure. And here's the one thing I really want to say, that this has little to do with ANCAP, if anything at all, because you could just still keep it a government and just say the Florida governor goes rogue and starts threatening California.
Right, but again, the governor of Florida doesn't have access to nuclear weapons.
Well, let's say he does in this scenario. He somehow gets them. I mean, this isn't an anarcho-capitalist problem. If you're going to appeal to government, then the government has to be able to solve the problem that you're pointing out.
They currently do by having a process in which we bomb others.
So what, bomb Florida?
The country currently, United States, has a organization called Congress in place that needs to vote whether we go to war or not.
Well, sort of.
Yes. There are also rules like the Geneva Convention, which was set up
they don't have to vote to go to war. But what I was going to say, this isn't a problem that's unique to anarcho-capitalism.
I'm not
'Cause
saying it's unique
you're just
to
saying
anarcho-capitalism.
there's some.
I'm saying without a governing body, which anarcho-capitalism does not have, there is nothing to to stop a community from threatening violence or using great weapons to overtake other communities.
The government can't do that either. What happens if one government takes over another one? It-
No,
I mean,
we're
this
talking
is
about
this.
within the realm of the United States, since we're all under the same nation. We currently,
Okay.
if the United States, if let's say a state, we'll go back with Florida, decides it wants to take over Georgia,
I think
that's
we're
not going to
spending too
happen.
long on
Not in
the.
the current
Yeah,
system.
I think we're spending too long on the military police one.
I mean,
It's
I agree, but I think you're in a corner, and I don't think you know what to do about it.
I'm not in a corner because this isn't a problem that has anything to do with anarcho-capitalism.
I'm asking, in an
You're saying
anarcho-capitalist society, how do you handle nuclear bombs or giant warheads or other types of bombs? What do you do with them? Because they currently exist. If you were to transition, what do you do with them?
Yeah, so my answer was that no private business could afford the cost of a nuclear weapon.
That doesn't explain what you do with them.
But
Just
that
because
does
you,
explain.
Stop.
It wouldn't exist.
Stop. They currently exist. Therefore, someone has to
maintain
take
them.
care of them.
You have to maintain them. It costs to use them.
I get that. What you're sidestepping by saying that is that the current weapons that exist need to be dealt with.
Yeah,
So let's just make it really simple for you.
you could just leave them there.
So we just leave them in whatever bunker they are, wherever they're at currently.
Well, I mean,
All the
I don't-
weapons.
Why not? I mean,
Because
I'm not
Joe
seeing
Blow
I'm not
down
seeing
the
problem
street
here.
now buys property where these nuclear weapons are held, and
You think Joe Blow down the street could use a nuclear weapon? You know how to implement that himself? No. These
no,
are
but now he
complex
has
systems.
possession of it, and people are aware of it.
Do what with it?
Sell off the rights. Tell China to come get it.
That wouldn't even make any sense. I mean, China would have to go through all of this private property through the United States, because remember, it's an ANCAP society, just to come and get the nuke. How is he going to?
You're wrong. It's called aircraft.
How is he?
We would just fly.
So it gives the nuke to China, and then what? China threatens to
Threatens
nuke us.
the now non-existent United States. That's a collection of random people that they're collecting on the debt that our government has built up over the last forever.
All right. So what you're describing is just it happens and under our current government as well. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not a solution. I'm saying that currently we have diplomats that work directly with China for the entire nation.
No, but even still, there's nothing stopping Joe Blow from selling a nuke to a foreign country.
Well, yeah, because Joe Blow doesn't have a nuke.
If he gets a hold of it, so
We can't get a hold of it. They're in facilities that are monitored by security that is paid for by the government,
or
lined with concrete and lead.
I mean,
And they're not just sitting down the road where I can go and pet it.
I mean, I think we're spending way too much time in it. This is not a trap.
It's not a trap. I just
I'm not
genuinely
looking for a
don't
corner.
know what your argument is with current giant weapons. What do you do with them? I genuinely am curious because
are you talking about a nuclear weapon, or are you talking about like a howitzer, or what?
all of it, because they all are not all. Most of major weapons in the United States are owned by the government, including stealth bombers and jets and aircraft carriers and nuclear bombs and everything in between.
In an ANCAP society, because it would be voluntarily funded, the amount of money available to it, of course, is going to go down, right? Because there's people that's going to be willing to pay for it, but not as much as is currently paying for it through taxes. So a lot of those weapons that it currently have it wouldn't be able to keep. Like in an ANCAP society, I doubt that the United States be able to maintain 11 U.S. aircraft carriers. I doubt that we'd be able to keep most of the what the 5,000 tanks that the army has. So it would downsize.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen to the weapons after that? I don't know. I mean,
That's exactly what I'm
auction
asking.
off.
What would happen?
I mean, it could be auction off. I
and
mean,
who gets the money from them?
Are you talking about like Craig? Who would get the money from it?
Yeah, because they're currently owned by the government.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I guess
whoever purchased that property. Because it is undoubtedly true that a company could afford nuclear weapons because they would just have to buy them by buying that land and then immediately turning around and selling them to the highest bidder.
Buying the land that a nuke is sitting on is different from being able to afford the maintenance that's required for the nuke.
Let's say tomorrow America transitioned to an ANCAP society and ABC bought the land that the government used to own that currently has nuclear weapons and then immediately post on the global internet that they have nuclear weapons for sale that they need to get rid of as soon as possible. Is there a problem with that?
What's this about selling nuclear weapons?
Is that a problem in general?
Selling nuclear weapons. I mean, sure. I mean, it could be, may or may not. I mean,
is there a problem with the scenario in which I just laid out?
Well, I need more information, but someone having a nuke. I mean, I think nukes are problematic, but the only reason they exist because a government is willing to spend trillions of dollars.
Yeah, but you're just sidestepping the question. Let's move on. You're not answering the question. It's fine. Let's move on. Pick something else.
What's the question? I mean,
the question is there a problem with a company doing that? The current U.S. government transitions to anarcho-capitalism at midnight tonight. ABC Company buys the land that was formerly government property that contains nuclear warheads and then reaches out to any other country with a news network and says we're selling those nuclear warheads because we can't afford them. Is that a problem?
Sure. I mean, it's a problem.
What's the problem with it? They own them. They own that property. It's their right to sell them.
No. I misunderstood what you were saying with a problem. You mean you asking if it's immoral?
No, I'm asking, is there any issue with that statement in an ANCAP society? I'm not asking whether it's moral or good or bad or a good thing to do. I'm asking, strictly on an ANCAP society, is there anything wrong with the scenario I just set up?
In a scenario, if you own nukes and it's your property, then sure, you have the right.
So if the government is disbanded, the property is sold, a company buys said property, they own those nukes, and it is that company's right to sell those nukes.
Sure.
Okay. Just checking. That's all I wanted.
Okay. All right. I mean, I just don't see the problem.
The problem is now you have a private company in charge of nuclear warheads that's going to instantly control more money and property than basically anything else. It would be a cash grab, or whoever currently owns the property to buy the property with the weapons and nuclear warheads.
This is where I thought you were going with this, and that's what I was saying. You can have a nuke, great, but you need other things too. Like you gotta eat, you need food, you need electricity, you need.
Well, a company doesn't. A company doesn't need food.
They're employees of your company. Your company.
That's great.
Power.
They sell a nuclear warhead to China or Russia or any other country, and now they have enough money or goods or food to last them 10 generations easily. Problem solved. And they still have nuclear warheads.
Having the money doesn't fix it. Sure, yeah. Let's say you have $1 billion, but everybody around you is afraid to do any sort of transaction with you. Now,
Yeah, because you're
you
strong-arming
can't.
them with nuclear weapons.
No, I thought you sold them to China.
You sold one, which would easily pay for all your employees' food.
Okay, so you're saying you're gonna coerce the entire society with a nuke.
If you're a big company, you start buying places with weapons on them and hiring people to use those weapons. Sure, why not?
Do you realize the people that work for your company are going to be the same people you're threatening, their family members? Like, for instance, like if I worked for your company and you're threatening to nuke my wife and kid.
No, because you work for my company, I'm giving you my protection. I won't nuke your wife and kids. I'll just send one of my mercenaries to your neighborhood and kill everyone who is not working for me. Or take all their stuff so I can afford to give it to my other employees.
Like my friends all around the country.
Sure.
Yeah,
if they're not paying me, or if they're not willing to comply, I'll just send mercenaries to them.
So you realize the mercenaries are going to be under the same problem that you have with threatening people. They're going to need food.
And I'm going to provide them food as a company in control of this land.
Your company is just a defense contractor. Remember, it's not a farm. Right? It doesn't have water.
In order for you to get food and services and whatnot in a current society, you go to a grocery store and you buy them.
In a free market, you need thousands of voluntary people working together to provide these things.
Right, because like the government subsidies that provide things for like money for farms and farming and agricultural services wouldn't exist anymore. So we probably wouldn't have enough food or imported goods to support the current number of people in America.
The reason why we have the subsidies in the first place, it's because the government is trying to take control of the way farming is done. I mean, like kind of for instance, like the farming subsidies that we experienced just the past couple years. That's a direct result of like Trump's trade wars. There was nothing free market about tariffs. That's what that's a result of. The subsidies are a result of government failed policies. That's not something you would see in a free market.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have them, and those farmers would be bankrupt.
No. The reason why there's enough food to go around is because we've developed the enough technology, like through.
Yeah, and the subsidies paid for the farming equipment and or land and or products necessary to grow those products.
Not subsidies. You mean like the bank loans?
I mean the government subsidies that provided those bank loans. Because the government owns that bank too.
The subsidy, the reason why there's a subsidy is because in a free market, the area that they're farming in is not profitable. But the government steps in and it's like, hey, we want you to farm here we want you to do this thing anyway. So we'll subsidize you, and they artificially make it profitable. If you're in a free market, your activities are going to be restricted to what's efficient, to what's profitable.
Yeah, because you're not going to have that land anymore.
Have like what land?
The land that the government subsidized so you could plant on it.
I don't see why your land would.
Well, because it wasn't yours. The government paid for it, so it's not going to go back to you.
The subsidies usually aren't what's paying for the land. And I mean, and on top of that, let's say, remember, there's no government. Let's say the farmer does lose his land. Who does it go to? The bank? He's going to auction it off to another farmer.
Yeah, that's a great question. Since we're there, we can get out of military and go into property rights.
The farming doesn't go away just because of a subsidy.
I'm fine with that.
It's not like
I don't care. You're going to have bigger problems now.
Okay.
Because you just led into the big problem: property rights. Whose land is it? You said at the very beginning of this that there's two precepts I need to have going into this. Here's where I'm going to set up a trap. So you asked me to let you know. Here it comes. You said you own your body, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And you own everything that is part of your body, your mind, your blood, your bones, your ideas, your concepts. They all belong to you.
Yep.
And you said you own things like clothing and a car and objects like computers and headphones.
Yeah. There are things that's not my body that I also own.
Right. But then you mentioned a house.
I said car.
You also said house. Okay. And let's take that a step further and say land.
Okay.
I think you don't own any land. I know you pretty well. I don't think you own any land. Let's say hypothetically you own land.
Yeah.
Where's your property line?
So,
and how's that determined?
I mean, the way these determine, I mean, you have right now. Banks keep up with a lot of that stuff. You have deeds, etc. I mean, there's a paper trail for it. Are you asking how the land is initially determined? Like there's a wilderness. How is this land become mine?
Well, with even without it, because most banks aren't private. They're hosted and helped by the FDIC. But let's say, for some reason, you have a bank that's keeping a paper trail of this quote-unquote land purchase, which I don't know who you purchased it from. But let's say that bank recognizes it, but the problem is...
having connection issues. It might be me.
You said what? What'd you say?
I said one of us is having connection issues. I think it's me.
I believe so. I'm not having any issues. I hear you clearly. It seems like everything is working well on my end.
My screen is like circling. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I went out.
Okay. We'll kind of start with you owning land. Who says you own land? You there?
This particular area, right?
So you're breaking up pretty bad. I can't hear you. Looks like there's some connection issues going on. I apologize to the viewers. I'm not getting anything on his side. I can't even tell that he's talking. If we can't reconcile this, I will say, unfortunately, we'll have to end this one very early. Well, not really relatively early, but...
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. But you're going in and out. I'm barely hearing you.
I don't know what was going on with my internet.
Okay, you're back. That sounded much better.
Good.
Okay, who says you own land? Besides you. I think I lost you again. We have about 5 minutes before we would typically end this anyway at an hour. I'm going to say with the technical issues that we're having, we should just wrap up now and potentially come back and tackle this and wipe military and police off the screen and agree not to talk about it and move on to something like property rights in the future.
I'm trying to...
It's fine. I've alerted the stream that you're having some issues. I think it's best if we just end it early and come back and try to tackle this another time. I'm just gonna move into this and just thanks for watching screen. It just seems like we're having some technical difficulties. I do apologize for that. But we'll come back to this, and I think G and I know each other very well, and personally we talk all the time. I think it's going to be best if we just stick attack in it, come back to it later. We'll wipe military and police off the screen because it seems like we can't come to an accord there. Nonetheless, we get to talk about some of these other topics when he gets this issue straightened out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure what was going on. I'm trying to connect to my VPN. I think that it might stabilize my network slightly.
Nah, no
But
worries. I was just saying, I think we should just wrap it up since we're about 5 minutes from where we would normally end anyway, and you're having some connection issues.
yeah,
And we'll just bookmark it, come back, wipe military and police off the screen, agree not to talk about it in the next one, and either have a different subject next time we discuss this, or just pick up here where we left off, and that'll be that. Unless you have any
yeah,
objections to that.
yeah. I'm cool with that.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, unless you want to include anything, add anything to this, we'll go ahead and wrap it up now.
Cool. Yeah. If you tuned in, or if you're listening after the fact, great. Thanks for giving us your support. Please, next time, try calling in or chatting. We want to talk to you.
Yeah,
We don't want to
absolutely.
sit
Our,
here and
our
talk all day.
tagline is "Let your voice be heard," and the reason I kind of came up with that is because I want to hear what you have to say. Gio wants to hear what you have to say. We want to hear other people's opinions, other people's arguments, other people's viewpoints, because even though he and I agree on a lot of things, as today proves, we don't agree on everything. And the more people we get in, the more people's opinion that we have, the broader our perspective becomes. So don't hesitate to leave a comment or ask a question in chat or call in and make your voice be heard. That's the whole reason I came up with the tagline. It's the whole reason this show exists. And at the very beginning on our starting Zoom page, which I'll switch to now, please consider just giving us a follow. It's free, but we also upload it to YouTube, and there's a link for that, our Discord server, our website, our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff is right here on our Twitch page. So if you have any questions or run into anything, there's a bunch of ways to contact us. There's a bunch of ways to let your voice be heard. We want to know it. We'll address it. If not at the current time, we'll pick up the next chat and throw out that comment or question and address it personally.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, fam.